Award-winning broadcast journalist Ed Marshall asks the tough questions you want answered. Informative, soul-stirring, one-on-one interviews about matters that affect our lives in this region we call home. Here now with Conversations is Ed Marshall.
Hello and welcome again to Conversations with Ed Marshall, and I am Ed Marshall, obviously. NAMI of New Orleans is an organization of families, friends, and individuals whose lives have been affected by mental illness. Together, they advocate for better lives for individuals who have mental illness. Many of our neighbors living with mental illness, of course, face additional challenges. Dealing with the coronavirus is added to all of that, and so much more. And to tell us more about what's going on to help people in our area is Judge Calvin Johnson, but he's now the director of the board of NAMI, and we're so glad to have you in the studio, Judge.
Oh, I'm so glad to be here with you, Ed. This is a joy for us, man.
Appreciate it. Appreciate you. And I know mental illness has always been something that's been close to your heart because you've worked with, with the mental illness court when you were, sitting on the bench and stuff like that. But we talk about mental illness and what I wanted to ask was, a lot of celebrities now are coming out saying that they have a mental problem, they have bipolar or whatever. And do you think that has opened the arena for more local folk and particularly young people to say, I have a problem and I need help?
Absolutely it has. To deal with stigma, to deal with how we think about mental illness is one of our problems. In terms of dealing with mental illness is how we think about it. Well, we have not thought about it in the same way we think about other health issues. We simply haven't.
Yeah.
And so for people who we look up to in some fashion or form to come out and talk about their own illnesses, including mental illness, is so helpful in terms of getting us over stigma, especially for young people, especially for children, I say children, but young adults,
yes,
to be able to come forward and deal with their own issues. Right. And I see it. I see it, Ed, in my own grandchildren.
Right,
I have young adult grandchildren, but who talk now about anxiety and issues, but are willing to talk about it. And that's just a great thing.
And it really is. Like you said, we have it in every family has people who are anxious and different kinds of things. But particularly for African Americans, because we've been the type of people who've always kind of gone to the preacher or whatever. Are you seeing more African Americans in terms of an ethnicity coming for help?
We're better now able to come forward with it. And because again, now we see again those people who have come forward, African Americans who have come forward and talked about their own issues. Well, it's given us all more ability to come forward and talk about mental illness and talk about our own families, our own families who have, of course, mental illness, because you are correct. There is no family, no group of people, regardless of race, creed, or color, that doesn't have some dealings with mental illness. There's no such thing in America.
Right.
This is the reality of America.
Right. And do you think the internet, of course, it contributes in many ways? So many kids are on there, and you see it on these different crime shows where, they feel like what they see in terms of the glamour and all this stuff, and they don't have it, and it causes them even more anxiety.
It does. It does. All of the media that we now have, and Ed, you and I both grew up in a world where we wasn't exposed to all that children today are exposed, either by just the mere fact that they get out of their bed and they click on a switch and they see a screen called TV. And they look at that, and they walk around with these devices in their hands, and they flick on those things, and they look at it. And each and every one of those things fills them with so much of what is the illnesses of America, or the illnesses of the world, for that matter.
Yeah.
And so it impacts them. And we see the impacts that it causes them. We see that play out in so many different ways.
Yeah. And of course, NAMI is an international organization.
Absolutely.
And has different groups here in New Orleans, as well as different areas as the North Shore and everywhere else. And I was looking at some of the statistics, and they're talking about how suicides are going up for teenagers all across our country. That's very alarming.
Oh my God! It's just such an issue now that we are looking at with death, with suicides in children. It's painful to see this play out. It truly is, and knowing that so much of it is caused by the anxieties that these children face. And the anxiety, so much of it comes again from being exposed to all of these things that are going on that children now are exposed to. It causes such anxiety. And children just end up with doing something that is incredibly incredible.
And adults too. You know, at this point, I hear of a lot of adults, particularly in the ministry, different things that are going the suicide route. And, you know, we didn't hear of that when we were growing up. But tell us a little bit about, you know, they put you in as the interim director of NAMI. For folks who don't know what NAMI is and what it does, kind of give us a capsule of it.
Maybe a little history of NAMI. NAMI is an entity that's existed for almost 45 years. It started in 1978, actually, as a group of people, a group of friends, group of families that decided that they would deal with what at that point in time was called psychologically disabled people, is what it was called. But they decided that they would deal with it from that kind of family friend perspective. And it's always been from the premise that group of people, family and friends, would bring hope, would bring health, would bring healing to people, and dealing from the perspective that people with mental illness can actually help people with mental illness. And so that concept flowed into what we see today in the National Alliance for the Mentally Ill, NAMI, which it flowed into that. And so NAMI now is an entity that really tries to get at both the issues that we see across people with mental illness, but also to get at how it can be a force in terms of dealing proactively with those issues. So one of the goals of NAMI is advocacy, is advocating for better care for people with mental illness, is creating or coming up with new kinds of methods in terms of treating people with mental illness. But that's kind of what NAMI is. But NAMI has, for people who are watching this show and really want to know how to for instance, navigate, the mental health system. Well, NAMI has an entity that does exactly that. It's Mental Health Navigation Team. NAMI has that entity that does it. I'm going to give numbers for that. But NAMI has an entity that does exactly that, that gives people a way to call on the phone and get that kind of assistance in terms of what to do.
And that's great. I hope people are listening to that.
Absolutely.
Letting them know that there is a way out. There is a way for not only for them to get the person that they're concerned about, but also for them as the caretaker. Because you know, many times the caretaker gets pulled down in the whole maze of it.
It is such a maze. The mental health treatment system is such a maze. And for you, as you suggest, the caretaker, the family member now who has that child, who is 16, 17, 18, that child, who now has had a mental health, what's called a break. Who has had an episode. And now that parent, that family member is called upon now to deal with this child. What do I do? Where do I go? Who do I call? Where do I take my child for help? And how as a family member, how as a friend, how can I help? Well, that's what NAMI does.
And particularly because after people become a certain age, you know, they're like, you can't just do intervention. So, you know, there are things that need to be done in terms of coaxing them to come in and get some assistance.
Absolutely, absolutely is. And the sweet spot, for lack of a better way of describing this, is at that first episodic break. Is to deal with that young person who's now engaged who now has the first start of a mental illness. But to deal with it at that point in time is a great place to start with treating the illness itself. But how to get there and how to help people get there And that's what NAMI does.
That's fantastic. What has it been like, I'm sure, to see someone who has had a mental break and to see them go through the process of talking with other people and actually being able to recover?
Oh, Lord, you can see it, though. And you can see, firstly, you can see the parent who is just so distraught, is just so amazed and upset that my child is now suffering from this illness. And it's not because you were a bad parent.
Right.
It has nothing to do with
nothing
illness.
To do with that.
It's not because of environment. It has nothing to do with illness. It's not because of your socioeconomic status. It has nothing to do with the illness. And to see how the parent then reacts to this and say, my God, what am I going
And they think, and it's shame for them.
And it is shame. Because that's a whole other concept here. It is shame. And so all of that is, the parents face all of that. And then to get the child to now come to grips with the fact that I have a treatable illness.
Yes.
Mental illness is a treatable illness.
I like that. Say that again. Yes.
But
it is a treatable illness,
it's a
everybody.
treatable illness.
Right. That's
it absolutely is a treatable illness.
Yeah.
But to get both the family, the friend, and the person, the child, who now has the illness, to come to that same realization that it is treatable.
Right.
It is absolutely treatable.
I had a young man that I mentored a while back. You know, he was smart enough to know this. He said he took himself to therapy. He said, I think I need to go to therapy about some situations that were happening, you know, around him. And because of that, he's now gone on, graduated from college, and just leading a wonderful life.
There are so many like him. Actually, there are so many like him who has a mental illness, but who's come to the grips with it, has come to treatment for it, has come to the realization that they can live a full, complete life with the mental illness.
Right.
They can.
Right.
I mean, that's just the wonderfulness of treatment. It really is.
Well, we've got to wrap up. I'm so glad you came by, and for people who want to get in touch with NAMI, you can tell us about how they do that. I know there's an office right there off Louisiana.
You have an office on Louisiana Avenue. We have an office on 8th Street and on the West Bank in Harvey. We have an office there. We have, of course, telephone numbers, and I'm going to give some out, but
Please
I want to give this one number I want everyone to remember.
Go for it.
If no other number. It is to how we navigate the system. It's Mental Health Navigation Team. That's 504-228-2246. 504-228-2246. And that's Ms. Gladys, who is going to help you, listeners out there, navigate the system itself. That's just a critical number. But now you can call our office, of course. On the East Bank, you can call 504-896-2345. On the West Bank, 504-368-1942.
And just
1944.
remember that NAMI.
There you go.
And once you look that up, they'll be able to assist you.
All of what we've talked about is on our website.
All right.
It's all of it. NAMINewOrleans.org is on our website.
Give everybody my best when you go back to the office, and we appreciate you coming in, and hopefully our audience has learned some information they can take back to help others and to help themselves. So we appreciate you coming in.
Ed, thank you.
All right. We'll be back with more of Conversations, so stay right here.
Looking for some summer fun? Then you've come to the right place. Get wild, crafty, and unleash your curiosity on Camp TV.
Saturdays at 7 a.m. and Sundays at 5 a.m.
As many as 475,000 Americans die from sudden cardiac arrest in a single year. And the American Heart Association notes that sudden cardiac arrest claims more lives worldwide than cancers, auto accidents, emphysema, HIV, firearms, and house fires combined. We can't simply rely on doctors and paramedics and other emergency responders to administer CPR and techniques, because in most cases, it will be up to us to do that because these emergency people are out there trying to get to people. We're waiting for those professionals to arrive. So with sudden cardiac arrest on the rise, we thought it was important enough to talk to local professionals about administering CPR and also to talk about a very special machine we'll get into. So we welcome back to the show, of course, my very good friend, Mr. Rick Schwab,
and
the Senior Director of Maritime over at Delgado and the industrial training, and of course a firefighter, a district chief, Mr. Al. He's gone to so many places and been to Italy lately. Facial, who is one of those people who has done a tremendous job in terms of teaching people about how to keep people alive. So let's get right into it, Rick. Tell us, why is it so important? And of course, we live in a place where there's water around us all the time. A lot of people don't know how to swim, and sometimes people get in pools and you pull them out, and people don't know how to handle this kind of thing.
Right.
Talk to us.
Well, I mean, a lot of our training is based on workforce training, but everything that we train on the workforce side goes home. So if you're looking at just not only your workforce, your workplace, you're also looking at your home site. Everyone has aging parents, aging relatives, and they also have young adults and also young children. Grandparents have grandkids like myself. And CPR first aid is a very important thing to know. As you said, we do a lot of things in the South, in Louisiana, that deals with water, like pools, boating, going to the beach, those type of things. But we also have everyday hazards of choking and that type of thing.
Yes.
So, but the one thing, the main reason we're here today, and I brought Al's our lead instructor, and he's very knowledgeable in not only the CPR aspect. Al's a first responder, and he's been there, done that.
Yes.
He's saved people's lives.
Yeah.
The main thing that we're here today, one of the things is we want to make everybody aware of the AED.
Okay,
The external.
tell us about that.
Yeah, I mean, the AED, and I'm going to let Al talk a little more about it, but we want everybody to know how easy it is to use and not to be afraid of it, even if you're not a trained professional or trained certified CPR instructor or student. You need to make sure that you understand how easy it is to use, and when you see them at airports, pool sites, when you see them at the arenas, when you see them in shopping malls, that if you see somebody go down with cardiac arrest, that AED is going to be their life-saving piece of equipment.
And some people don't even know what they really look like. So Al, jump in here, show us what it looks like, and how do you do that?
AED stands for Automated External Defibrillator, and what these devices do is that they correct an irregular heart rhythm that occurs often during cardiac arrest. So when you are suffering from sudden cardiac arrest, which unfortunately happens primarily away from the hospital, seconds matter, minutes matter more.
Yes.
And yes, I am a first responder, but I'm not almost ever the first responder.
Right.
The citizens of this city and the cities around the country are the first responder. This is why we encourage the training of CPR. This is where the AED does its most good.
Okay.
Those minutes from the time someone is in cardiac arrest are few. 10 minutes, roughly, statistically speaking, from the time someone's in cardiac arrest to the time that this device has its most value to help save this person's life. Very simple to use if you just turn it on. They are all designed to walk you through the process about how to apply the pads, when to plug the device in, how to deliver a life-saving shock to someone who is in dire need of it.
Okay.
We use, to encourage this training, what we call the cardiac chain of survival.
Okay.
The cardiac chain of survival starts with recognizing that a cardiac emergency is occurring, be it a heart attack or cardiac arrest. Immediately beginning CPR when required, someone who is unconscious and not breathing, and immediately securing and using an automated external defibrillator as soon as possible.
So if you're in a commercial place and you see somebody go down like that, you would start first with CPR and then ask somebody else to see if you can go get this AED.
That is ideally how we want it to happen. So you absolutely need to activate the 911 system, right?
Okay.
So persons like myself and other first responders can be en route, because the fourth link of that cardiac chain of survival is advanced medical care.
Right.
So we need to get these links linked up as quickly as possible, and that's going to start with calling, beginning CPR, and having someone in a public space secure that AED. If you're at a Walmart, there's an AED. If you're in a restaurant, I can almost promise you there's an AED present. You may not see it, but find an employee, they can find it for you, they can secure it. We can get this AED and deliver this life-saving shock as quickly as possible to give this person the best chance of surviving, which is what we want to do, right?
And if people want to have them in their homes, that's a possibility as well now.
Absolutely, absolutely. You can actually pull your phone right now and look on Amazon. You can find automated external defibrillators for purchase.
And, I thought that was important because my grandparents, obviously, as they got older, moved in with my parents, and I used to worry all the time, because, they would get nervous, they wouldn't know what to do. So, and that's where I heard about this kind of thing.
So knowing what to do is important. It's one of the most stated apprehensions that's mentioned in students, right? I want to help, but I'm not confident in what to do. So we absolutely encourage everyone to receive training, community-based training, workforce training, and that's what we provide.
Right.
Our mission is to place in front of anyone who may be experiencing cardiac arrest someone who has received that training, so that we can start connecting the links in the cardiac chain of survival to get
what if somebody says, I have a pacemaker? Should they not use that, or is that?
So one of the things I really enjoy about first aid CPR training and the application of first aid CPR is that the rules of the application of the training in the care is the same. If someone is unconscious, we should always call for help. If someone is unconscious and not breathing, we immediately begin CPR. If you are performing CPR, no matter the exception, you need to secure an AED. So we try desperately to clear the cloud. Right. We don't want you to start thinking about exceptions to this rule, because there is no exception when it comes to this, or very rare exceptions.
Yeah.
And the training is going to help you really understand that.
A lot of people are worried, especially for babies, because some people, particularly like some babysitters, don't really know what to do when a child has a situation. So kind of walk us through what would need to be done.
Sure.
With a child particularly.
And again, luckily for us,
you can pick him up.
Luckily for us, when it comes to CPR, be it a child or an adult, the rules are generally the same. The first thing we need to do is establish if, in fact, this person is unconscious, and we do that generally by tapping and calling. Next, we need to establish if this individual is able to breathe. The trick to that is securing an open airway. So what the training is going to teach you how to do is to tilt the head by placing 2 fingers under the chin, tilting the head, and listening and watching the chest rise and fall. After 5 to 10 seconds, if you do not detect any sign of breathing, we immediately begin CPR. And CPR is simply placing the heel of your hand in the center of the chest for an adult. For a child, you would encircle, for a pediatric patient, using
Like
your
that.
thumbs
Okay.
and compressing 1.5 inches. And you need to do this at a rate of 100 to 120 compressions per minute. So it's a pretty good pace.
Yeah.
But it's important, because what we're trying to do is circulate oxygenated blood to the heart as well as the brain to get us the time we need to secure the AED to restore an
particularly the
effective
brain,
heartbeat.
yeah,
To
so-
restore an effective heartbeat.
Yeah, so-
And the same rules apply here. The only difference for an adult is we need the heel of the hand to be in the center of the chest. That would be on the sternum, between the nipples.
Okay.
Locking elbows, shoulders over hand, 2 inches for an adult, making sure the chest rises fully between compressions.
Right.
So it's very, very simple. We really encourage everyone to get the training, because when you're armed with that confidence,
Right.
you're going to be that person saving
If somebody
someone's
says,
life.
I want to get the training, where can they go to get it?
Oh, I send everyone to Delgado,
yeah,
but
yeah.
there's many
Of course you
community
do.
outreach. There's many community outreach
Places where-
groups and
where you get
places. Try to YMCA, a lot of lot of places. It's not hard to find.
Red Cross.
Yeah, Red Cross, American Heart.
People need
you
to know. People need to know.
Yeah, I mean,
Super.
but like I said, the main thing is with the AED is put it on. It's going to walk you through it.
Yes,
Great.
very simple.
Okay, I mean, it's and the bottom line is, if the person does have a heartbeat, AED will not shock you.
Right.
You know, it's
Super.
it's made
It's a very good point, because you cannot hurt anyone with this device. You can only help.
Great.
So
I know we have just a few more minutes, so we're going to switch gears just real quick, Rick, because I always like to talk about the maritime, what's going on out at Delgado with that maritime ministry.
We are very excited. Last year we got chosen by the federal government to be a center of excellence for the federal government maritime program.
Fantastic.
We're one of 26 in the United States. That's something big. We're also building a brand new building for deckhand training. We're doing a lot of deckhand training. And if anybody's looking for a great career that starts off as a deckhand, but we're not training deckhands, we're actually training captains, because that's our future. Deckhands are going to be the future.
They gotta need those.
Correct. So if anyone likes to, if they're looking for a real career path, if they're looking for a job with a sustainable income, with a job with a future, with a job with 401ks and good benefits, the maritime industry is where it is.
Because that's where the big boats that go out, they're going to need all those people.
Like today, if you're at the New Orleans French Quarter Festival and you're on the river, you're seeing all the vessels that we train. All the mariners out there, including the ferries, all those are the mariners that we train, because we do a lot of recertification training. Of course, everyone that is out on the river, on the vessels, all have CPR. They all train in AED, CPR, first aid. They have to be. They are the first responders. But the big thing is for us is that we're moving forward. We're in New Orleans East by NASA. If anybody would like to come visit our facility.
That's great.
We have world-class simulators. Al is also an instructor on the fire side, where now we're doing virtual reality command and control training, which is something new, and we're the only one that I know of in the United States right now that is approved for by the U.S. Coast Guard for advanced firefighting training.
Fantastic.
So we are hitting things, and we're doing things differently, even though we're doing the same things we've been doing the last 30 years. But we are looking at new avenues, and we're looking at new growth of people. And we want we're looking also, one of the big things we're trying to do, Ed, and we hope not this summer, but next summer, we're starting to look at summer camps so we can train young people and get them interested in advance.
Okay.
Right now the maritime industry probably has 5,000 jobs open. All right, and we could definitely train them to get that first leg up.
That's it.
So please tell them to contact the school, because we can definitely connect them with employers.
All right.
Absolutely.
Delgado Community College, making it happen. Thanks, guys, for coming in, and we appreciate you all and everything you do to help our community.
Thank you.
When we come back, we'll talk about a local guy that just took the Grammys and shook them up. So stay right here.
Our lives have changed and are changing still, but our worlds don't have to come apart. Could we emerge from these times happier, healthier, with a stronger democracy and an economy that makes sense?
Normal is not survivable.
We have to be bold and transformative.
Each one of us is going to take on the work of democracy every single day.
Join me for Season 2 of The Laura Flanders Show.
Wednesdays at 5:30 p.m.
Hats off to New Orleans' own John Batiste of the renowned Batiste family. You can see him weeknights as chief musician on The Late Show with Stephen Colbert. Well, recently, John Batiste was celebrated at the 2022 Grammy Awards. Icon and music artist Batiste started and ended the Grammys with a bang, taking home the night's biggest award for Album of the Year, called Freedom. Congratulations. In other news, New Orleans said goodbye to the Queen of Bourbon Street, Chris Owens. She was known for her generosity to others and her yearly Easter parade that promenade through the French Quarter. And New Orleans also said goodbye to soul food chief Mr. Johnny Leonard Jr., who for years was the co-owner of Dot and Gladys's restaurant. He was also a trainer for cooks at the Best Life Pharmacy and Restaurant to cook delicious and healthy soul food. Well, that's our show for today. Thanks for keeping us company. Remember to do something good for yourself, do something good for someone else, and stay in peace, not pieces. We'll see you.